Once upon a time, in a peaceful village far away, there lived two peddlers named John and Mike. The two men were rivals, always competing for customers because they sold the same kind of products: pots, pans, and jewelry. One day, they found themselves in a situation where they had to sell in the same village at the same time. Both were worried about how they could make enough money. "Mike," John said with a sigh, "we both sell the same things. How will we convince people to buy from us? They'll buy from you, and they won't have any reason to buy from me afterward." Just then, an old wise man who was passing by overheard their conversation. He had seen the two merchants many times before and knew they were both struggling.
"Why don't you two divide the village in half? John, you can sell your wares in one half of the village, and Mike, you take the other half. When you finish, you can switch places and try your luck in the other half. That way, you won't have to compete directly with each other."
Both men looked at each other and thought about the idea. "That's a great plan. We'll do that," they agreed, and each set off toward their respective sides of the village. John began calling out as he walked down the streets. "Jewelry and pots, gorgeous bangles. Come and see." He hoped to catch the attention of the villagers. Nearby, a little girl heard John's call and ran inside her small house. "Grandma, there's a man selling beautiful bangles outside. Can you buy one for me, please?" The grandmother shook her head sadly. "Oh dear, I wish I could, but we don't have any money to buy such things." The little girl thought for a moment, and then her eyes fell on an old pot in the corner, covered in thick black soot. "Grandma, what about that old pot? Maybe we can trade it for a bangle." The grandmother glanced at the pot. It had been sitting there for so long that she had forgotten about it.
"That old thing? It's filthy and covered in grime. I don't think anyone would want it, but if it makes you happy, we can try."
The little girl ran out just as John reached their house, still calling, "Jewelry and pots. Buy a bangle, let it dangle." "Over here," the girl shouted. "I want to buy a bangle." John looked at the little girl's ragged clothes and frowned.
"I'm afraid you can't afford my bangles, little girl. Don't waste my time."
"But you didn't even tell me the price," she exclaimed, determined. John laughed. "All right then, 2 coins for 1 bangle. But I doubt you have 2 coins. The grandmother stepped forward.
"We don't have any money, but we do have this old pot. Would you trade a bangle for it?"
John sneered. "That filthy pot? It's worthless." But curiosity got the better of him. He took the pot and rubbed the grime a little. To his surprise, a gleam of gold appeared beneath the soot. His heart skipped a beat. "This is no ordinary pot. It's a golden pot," he thought to himself. But John, being a greedy man, decided to hide this discovery from the grandmother and the little girl. "This pot is no good to me," John said, pretending to be disappointed. "I don't want it. Goodbye." He turned and walked away, planning to come back later and trick them into giving him the golden pot for free. A little while later, Mike made his way to the same house, calling out, "Jewelry and pots. Buy a bangle, let it dangle." The little girl, still eager for a bangle, ran outside again. "Sir, we don't have any money, but we have an old pot. Would you trade a bangle for it?" Mike smiled kindly at her. "Let me see the pot, little one," he said. When he saw the old, grimy pot, Mike knew it wasn't worth much in its current state. However, he didn't want to disappoint the little girl. He gently rubbed the pot to get a better look at it, and to his shock, a gleaming gold shimmered beneath the soot. "My goodness," Mike exclaimed. "This is a golden pot. It's worth far more than just 1 bangle." The grandmother shook her head in disbelief. "We're just poor folks," she said. "We don't understand its true value. Please, take it and give my granddaughter the bangle she wants." Mike, being an honest man, shook his head.
No. This pot is worth far more than a simple bangle. Here, I'll give you all the pots, pans, and jewelry I have with me in exchange for this pot. I'll keep only 2 coins for myself, enough to cross the river."
The grandmother was overjoyed with the deal, and the little girl was thrilled to have not just 1 bangle, but plenty of beautiful new jewelry. They waved cheerfully as Mike left with the golden pot. Later that day, John returned to the house, thinking he would easily trick the grandmother and take the golden pot.
I've changed my mind, he said, trying to act generous. I'll take that worthless old pot, but I won't be able to give you a bangle for it.
We've already traded the pot to an honest peddler who gave us everything he owned in exchange. John's face turned red with anger. What? That was my golden pot. No, it was supposed to be mine, he shouted. He ran to the riverbank, hoping to catch Mike, but by the time he arrived, Mike had already crossed the river with the golden pot and all the riches.